On January 15, 1919, the people of Boston's North End were going about their daily routines, unaware that disaster was about to strike in the most unexpected way. In the heart of the city stood a massive steel tank, 50 feet tall and filled with over 2.3 million gallons of thick, sticky molasses. This tank, owned by the Purity Distilling Company, had been a subject of concern for years. It leaked so often that children would collect the dripping molasses in cups for a sweet treat. But instead of repairing it, the company had simply painted the tank brown to hide the leaks. That afternoon, the unthinkable happened. After days of freezing temperatures, Boston experienced an unusual warm spell, causing the molasses inside the tank to expand. Suddenly, with a deafening explosion, the structure gave way. The steel rivets shot out like bullets, the tank split open, and a massive wave of boiling molasses roared through the streets at 35 miles per hour. It was 15 feet high, taller than a single-story house, and moving with enough force to level buildings, overturn freight cars, and crush everything in its path. The streets turned into a deadly, sticky trap. People who had been walking nearby were swept up and drowned in the syrupy flood, struggling as if caught in quicksand. Horses, unable to break free, screamed and eventually suffocated in the thick molasses. A firehouse was torn from its foundation, and workers inside barely had time to react before they were engulfed. A train passing nearby was knocked off the tracks by the sheer force of the wave. Rescue efforts were nearly impossible. Firefighters and police officers who rushed to the scene found themselves stuck knee-deep in the thick, slow-moving flood, unable to move quickly enough to save those trapped. Some victims were completely swallowed by the molasses, their bodies not discovered for days. The entire city smelled of molasses, and for weeks, crews worked tirelessly to clean the streets, using salt water and sand to dissolve the hardened syrup. Even after months of scrubbing, the scent of molasses lingered in Boston for decades, especially on hot summer days. Investigations later revealed that the tank had been poorly built from the beginning, with walls too thin to support the weight of the molasses. The Purity Distilling Company had ignored safety concerns, and when the disaster struck, 21 people lost their lives, and over 150 were injured. The tragedy became one of the first cases where a company was held legally responsible for negligence, setting a precedent for industrial safety regulations. What seemed like a freak accident was actually a preventable disaster caused by greed and carelessness. The Great Molasses Flood remains one of the strangest yet deadliest industrial catastrophes in American history, a reminder that even something as sweet as molasses can turn deadly when safety is ignored.